What is up, Straight Fire fam? It's me, Jason McIntyre, Straight Fire for Wednesday, October 23rd. And we got a midweek NBA preview for you guys. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome to the world of Rob Guerra, RG, producer to the stars. He is joining me from the Fox Sports Radio studio. If you're listening on the podcast, it doesn't really matter where he's joining you from. But we thought we would chop it up, go back and forth, preview the NBA this season. Now, it's weird, right, Rob? Because the World Series is happening, and it's probably the most anticipated World Series in, I don't know, maybe since the Cubs got here or the Red Sox. I don't know. LA, New York is big. College football is having an amazing season with a lot of parity, and we know everybody loves their parity in the NFL. College football has been unbelievable. Alabama, are they going to be able to make the playoff with 3 losses? And then you got the NFL, of course, which is amazing. And now it's like the NBA just kind of snuck up on you. I've watched less preseason NBA than I ever have. I don't know if that says something about me or the product, but Rob and I are going to buzz through. We've got our top 8 in each conference. I have one pretty major surprise in the West and I guess one medium surprise in the East. We are going to do our NBA Finals picks, and we're going to use odds from, listen, I don't want to narrow it down to any one book, but DraftKings obviously is a sponsor at FS1, and we're going to use those odds. We're not going to do Rookie of the Year, although I have some thoughts on that. We're not going to do Coach of the Year. Nobody cares. So let's get started. Rob, first, I'll just look macro. Coming off the Olympics, where a lot of the, shall we say, older NBA players participated, a.k.a. Curry, Durant, we'll toss Embiid in there. LeBron, obviously, AD. I'm curious, did you look at any historical data when it comes to NBA stars playing in the Olympics, which is you're not getting a break, obviously, and then playing in the upcoming season to get an idea? Because as a result of that, I have some of the elder statesmen, shall we say, slipping and some of the young bucks rising. And I know, listen, I know guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played for Canada, but he's young. It doesn't really matter. Jokic, maybe a different story. We know he likes his summer vacation. So I'm just curious if you're looking big picture at if the Olympics had any impact on this upcoming NBA season.
So I did look at it. And the problem, though, with that kind of historical evidence is that it doesn't really factor in the age, as you're alluding to, right? So if you go back historically and look up some of the numbers as guys who played in the Olympics and then that following season, you have a handful of guys that used the Olympics as a springboard to an even better season the year after. Kobe Bryant did it as a veteran. LeBron James did it as a veteran. Kevin Durant did it as a veteran. And then you go forward, and there's other guys who have played maybe not in the Olympics, but in the World Games, a la Austin Reeves, who took a minute to get his legs underneath him to start off the season. Devin Booker has had, maybe not most recently, but previous iterations, has had slow starts to the season. Anthony Davis has had slow starts to the season when he plays internationally, whether in the Olympics or in the World Games. So that is definitely something you got to monitor, because there really is no definitive, hey, if you play, you're going to perform better. If you play, you're going to perform worse. It really varies on a person-to-person basis.
I'll largely agree with that. And I will just add, groupthink is a real thing when it comes to previews, guys. I don't look at a lot of them, but I can almost guarantee you most people are going to have the same 3-ish teams in the NBA Finals. For sure, the Celtics, a lot of people are going to have the Celtics. For sure, I know this is going to surprise some people, everybody and their mom loves the OKC Thunder. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I like them a lot in the regular season. I'm not as much of a believer in them, well, coming out of the West. And then I think it's a bit of a toss-up between the Dallas Mavericks, who were in the finals last year, and I think a lot of people like my Knicks. Not a lot of people buying the Sixers, despite the Paul George edition. All right, let's dive right in. So, Rob, what do you think is the most efficient? I just go my 8. We go 1-1, 1-1. What do you think?
Let's do your 8, and I'll respond to it with mine.
Okay.
And we'll talk about where we differ.
We'll start in the East. I will start at 8 and count down to 1. I've got the Orlando Magic as the 8th seed, like the Magic this year. East is improved. I have them narrowly edging out Toronto and Charlotte. Yes, LaMelo Ball, he's back for the 8th seed. I've got the Miami Heat at 7. There's some Jimmy Butler noise out there. I don't like what I'm hearing. He seems unhappy with the Heat, and now he's like dug in. Hey, I'm testing the market regardless. And you wonder if he's going to be on a mission to prove that he's worth it, or he's going to power down, save it for the postseason, and we see postseason Jimmy showing up. I got the Heat 7. Checking in at 6, the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm upset that I didn't bet the under in time for the season wins total. You got Joel Embiid coming out this week saying, I don't think I'll play back-to-backs probably for the rest of my life in the NBA. Joel Embiid, it's all about postseason success. He's got the MVP. He got the Olympic gold. That dude needs a chip. He needs to get to the finals. I know they're all in with Paul George. I don't love the rest of this roster. And we know Paul George's injury history. I had the Sixers 6th in the East. I have the Indiana Pacers at 5. I really wanted to make them 3, but I put them at 5. I'm just telling you, this is a dangerous Pacers team. I like everything about this team. Deep. They're coaching, I like. Rob, I'm bullish on the Indiana Pacers. I have them at 5. 4, Cleveland Cavaliers. They keep Donovan Mitchell. They sign Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen there for now. Cleveland Cavaliers 4th in the East. At 3, the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis and Dame now have an offseason to prepare. They've got the genius Doc Rivers. I don't know if you saw the quotes. Doc Rivers saying that he's never had a disappointing season. Some nonsense like that from one of the biggest choke artists in NBA coaching history. Number 2, my New York Knicks. And number 1, regular season, I got the Celtics. Despite no Porzingis, I do think that the team is too deep, too good for them to be anything other than like a 1 or 2 seed. Now, you get a major injury, that changes things. But I've got the Celtics and Knicks pretty clear top 2 in the East. And then, the Bucks are in that second tier that's got a bunch of teams, including the Sixers. Rob, your thoughts?
I'll tell you what's shocking to me is that not that we have all of the same 8 teams. What's shocking to me is that we have 3 of them in the exact same spot. And the first 2, I think you can guess,
yes,
Boston and New York. I think everyone can agree that those 2 teams are the cream of the crop in the Eastern Conference. But I'm with you on the Sixers. I thought I was going to blow your mind when I said I had them at number 6 and coming into the season. And part of it is Joel Embiid, like you mentioned, saying I'm already not going to play back-to-backs. That's a big deal for them because when he plays, they win. When they don't play, they're, hit or miss. And then they're already starting off on the wrong foot where both Joel Embiid and Paul George are going to be out for at least the first week of the season. It was 2 or 3 games. And we know coming off the preseason, Tyrese Maxey kind of dinged up his thumb a little bit. I'm sure he's going to be fine. He's going to play through it, but that's not something that is nothing. You know what I mean? So you got to factor that in with a team like Philadelphia, who has made it so clear that they're only playing for the playoffs. I could see them not taking the regular season as seriously. Okay. Moving forward. I guess the biggest discrepancy that you and I have though, when it comes to these rankings is I have the Magic and the Pacers much further apart than you do. I have the Orlando Magic at number 4.
Wow.
Last year, they finished number 5. They were 2 back of Milwaukee for the 3. And here's the thing about the NBA nowadays. If you remove the Boston Celtics, who are their own special version of a juggernaut, right?
Fair.
2 through 8 was 3.5 games apart. So if you have a rough patch with injuries, like Philadelphia already dealing with it right now, if you have a situation like Milwaukee with Chris Middleton not ready for the start of the season, that's why I have them at number 5. Not because I don't think that they're a championship team, but that they're probably even better. And I picked them in a playoff series over Orlando, over Indiana, things like that. But the problem is every game is going to matter when you have this much talent and the depth is so much better than it's been. And as long as I can remember. So
real quick to back it up,
sure.
Orlando and Indiana both plus 2,500 to win the East. So the market has them a lot closer than I do. I don't know. I love this Pacers team. Maybe it's recency bias from what I saw last year and the emergence of Tyrese Halliburton. For my money, one of the sharpest guys.
That's the only reason why I have them at 7. It's because Tyrese, they are so dependent on him and him specifically. They don't really have a secondary guy that can do what he does, even a reasonable facsimile of it. So if he misses any amount of time, I don't see them being able to hang on in the top 4.
Now, I look at their depth chart. Remember, Mathurin didn't play in the postseason. And this kid, Jarace Walker, who was a high draft pick 2 years ago, barely played for them last year. If those two can pop, this is not mind-blowing stuff, but I am of the belief that Pacers 1 to 10 have probably the most depth in the league because there's a lot of top heavy teams. Rob, Celtics top heavy, Knicks are now top heavy. I love the Pacers depth, and that stuff, like you said, matters when you're looking at the regular season.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, you mentioned, I think, was it Charlotte as your team that's on the
Charlotte
fringes,
sleeper, yeah.
peripheral? You know who I got? Same family, Chicago Bulls.
Oh,
I,
okay.
Lonzo Ball, man, the redemption tour, the comeback story is incredible. He's obviously not as explosive as he was before all the knee injuries, but just seeing him out there in the preseason, his instincts are still top of the league level. Like his basketball IQ is up there. He's always been a good defender. And now that he had all this time to work on his jumper, he was already a 40% three-point shooter before that. I could see him very quietly being like a 13, 8-8 guy and just steadying the ship for them. I don't have them in the playoffs, but I could definitely see them threatening for a play-in game for sure.
Yeah, is there a world where he's the comeback player of the year? I think they have that in the NBA. I know they have in the NFL, and it's usually someone who's coming off injury. Everybody's rooting for Lonzo, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's just a great guy. He's a great story, and it's just tough that the big chunk of his prime was taken away from him.
Yeah, did you? So you had this Where did you have the Bucks?
I had the Bucks in this ranking. I had him at 5th.
So who was your 3?
So my order, top to bottom: Boston, New York, Cleveland, Orlando, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Indiana, Miami.
So you have the Sixers at 6.
And I was this close to leaving Miami completely off the top 8. I don't like the roster at all, but I have too much respect for Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo to do it.
Yeah, interesting. All right, let's go to the West, which is really a big cluster. I'm not going to mention my play-in teams, Rob, because one of my big surprises is in the play-in. I will go at number 8 in a team that I'm kind of rooting for. You know, sometimes the last 2 years I got behind the Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. Those were bad failures, huge whiffs by me. This year, well, last year I bet the over on the Rockets season win total and that hit. This year, the Houston Rockets are my sleeper team of destiny. Oh my gosh. Have you seen the Reed Shepherd highlights? I've been putting those on IG. That kid can hoop. Now I know he can't really shoot threes, but I just loved it. I like how this team is built, Rob. I don't know if I agree with Sengun getting, what's that, $185 million contract. Oh, it's just insane. I got Houston at 8. I think they're going to be feisty this year. At number 7, Phoenix Suns. I may be too low on them after last year's catastrophe. At 6, I have the Lakers, which is a big risk because LeBron and AD played a lot last year, and if any of them go down for a 10 or 20 game segment, this team could be in trouble, unless you believe Dalton Connect can bail them out. Lakers at 6, Sacramento Kings at 5, Denver Nuggets at 4. A lot of people like the Nuggets. I am a little skeptical. Number 3, Dallas Mavericks. Number 2, OKC. And the number 1 team in the West, give me the Minnesota Timberwolves and the fighting Anthony Edwardses. By the way, in one of the dumbest, look at me, please click on my thing, lists I've seen in 2024, Charles Barkley, ranked the top 20 players in the league, had Anthony Edwards at 14. Okay. There was a legit, I'm not making this up. There was a legit discussion that Anthony Edwards could be the face of the league this year. Okay. 14th? I mean, he's all NBA first team guy. Come on. Anthony Edwards, I think Anthony Edwards out for revenge. I like how this team's built, right? You got McDaniels, the defender on the wing. I like DiVincenzo's addition. We'll see if Conley can hold up. This to me is an Anthony Edwards 30-point-a-game season. I'm all in on Dillingham. I'm sure you guys did see the preseason highlights of Rob Dillingham. That dude is nice. We'll see. I have them number 1. I know it's a shot in the dark, but I am going Minnesota Timberwolves number 1 seed in the West.
That is a really ballsy take by you to have Minnesota number 1. Not because they don't have the talent. Obviously, even with Karl-Anthony Towns out of town and Julius Randle taking his spot. The reason why I'm lower on them in the regular season than you are, and I definitely don't have them at number 1, is because once you get a taste of postseason basketball, it's almost like you take your foot off the gas, consciously or subconsciously. Fair. We saw that happen to them from round 2 to round 3. Once they beat Denver, you would have thought the way that they were celebrating and the way they were feeling, so that they had already won the championship, that they were already in the finals facing Boston. And what happens? They go up against Luka Doncic, and Luka takes their lunch money, and they're gone almost like immediately. So for that reason, and that reason alone, I have them at number 5.
Minnesota?
Minnesota at number 5.
Wow. Okay, let's hear.
So
why?
I'm with you on the Houston Rockets. I have them at 8. So me and you are lockstep. I'm with you on the Lakers. I got them both at 6. So
Hmm.
other than that, it's a lot of fluidity in the Western Conference. And for good reason, because if you look at last season, 1, 2, and 3 were separated by 1 game. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
4, 5, and 6 were separated by 2 games. Like if you go on a 3-game losing streak in March, you might go from the 3 seed to the play-in tournament in the Western
Possible.
Conference.
Yeah.
So this is really going to depend on health, number one, and number two, getting off to a fast start. And that is why I believe that the Phoenix Suns exercise their injury demons and they're going to have relative health moving forward here in 2024. I have them at number 2 in the regular season.
Wow.
I think that Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, we saw when they were together, they can still score, especially in the regular season with anybody. They won 49 games despite only having their guys together for what, a third of the season? If they can get that up to 60, 70% of the season, I think they can do some real damage. So here's my order top to bottom. OKC at number 1, young legs, as you alluded to. They're going to be one of those teams that takes the regular season very seriously.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see how it goes in the playoffs. Phoenix, Denver at 3. I think you can't underestimate the loss of KCP. Dallas at 4. Again, they're one of those teams. I think they're really good, but regular season and postseason, 2 different things. They're going to rely a lot on Luka. We'll see if he's willing to carry that burden. I think he's already dealing with some injuries right now to start the season. So we'll see how much they throttle him up throughout the regular season, knowing they're playing for a championship. Minnesota 5, Lakers 6, Kings 7, Houston at number 8.
So both of us have 2 teams. I'm sure you guys at this point are like, Jay, where are they? The Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies? Both. I have them in the play-in.
I have Memphis in the play-in as well.
You don't have the Warriors in the play-in?
I have the Warriors in the play-in as well.
Okay.
The team that I thought was going to kind of blow people's minds that I don't even have in the play-in is Kawhi Leonard's Los Angeles Clippers.
No, neither. I don't either. They don't have enough. Yeah.
And that's just something that I believe now that we talk about it, it doesn't seem as crazy. But if I were to tell you that 2 years ago that this team would have been what many believe was going to be the foreseeable future NBA champion when they all came together with Paul George and Kawhi and that group. They added Ty Lue as the head coach. And it was, hey, they got they got all these different dudes. If they're healthy, you don't want to see them. And then slowly but surely, Montrezl Harrell's gone, Lou Williams gone, Pat Beverly's gone. So that's like the nucleus of your emotional leadership. Paul George dips out this offseason. Suddenly we got skinny James Harden, so I'm kind of optimistic about that. Maybe they'll win more games than I thought. But Kawhi Leonard, if he's not available, this team is just they're a lottery team, maybe even mid-lottery team.
So the DraftKings has the Clippers plus 4,000 to win the West. That is worse than the Kings, Pelicans, a bunch of. Well, I don't have the Pelicans in there. Somebody's going to fall out, and maybe I'm too bullish on the Rockets. Maybe both of us are. But I look at that Clippers depth chart, and it's like James Harden, Norm Powell, Terrence Mann, Kawhi, and Zubac. If healthy, that's interesting. But now you got Kawhi out, and you got old James Harden, and you turn to the bench, and there's like no Russell Westbrook. Oh, we got Kevin Porter. That guy can get some buckets, but checkered pass. Chris Dunn cannot shoot. Amir Coffey is like a 5 to 10 minute a game guy. Derrick Jones Jr. chased the bag, I guess, in the Clippers, or maybe the Mavs just couldn't afford him. Mo Bamba, Bones Highland, like there's just not a ton of talent there. I didn't even consider them, Rob, in my top 10. No. I did, however, look closely at the Pelicans, who I kind of sort of like, because I fashioned my men's league game after Jose Alvarado trying to get those cheap steals in the backcourt. They add DeJounte Murray. So they got Murray, McCollum, Ingram, Zion, and Herb Jones at center. Okay. What's wrong with that lineup? I like that starting 5. They can do some things. DeJounte defends. CJ gets buckets. Brandon Ingram contract year. Zion, cross your fingers, stay healthy. I think that starting 5 is definitely playoff caliber. The problem is Zion's never healthy. And, I don't know what number guy is Brandon Ingram on that team, Rob?
He should be their number 1 because of his style of play and what he does. The problem is they're never going to let him be the number 1.
No.
And that's where it kind of junks everything else up. Yeah. They're one of those teams that needs to make a move, not necessarily to get a better player than Brandon, but to get a better fitting player than Brandon Ingram. That's one of those weird situations. Nobody really wants to make a trade where you're taking back 80 cents on the dollar. But that's almost what they have to do for the roster to make more sense.
Yeah, the roster is just a collection of dudes. And there were moments
good players,
last year.
Really good players. It's just, What do you
They're
think?
very solid. So Rob and I in mostly
I will
agreement on
say
the East.
I felt terrible about leaving the Grizzlies out because with the Ja Morant quote unquote revenge tour coming up, I could see them being like the number 2 seed because he plays ball to the wall, reckless abandon, vintage Ja Morant. I could also see them the way I have it of them missing the play-in altogether. And I can't even really give you a justifiable reason as to why I feel that it's going to be either yin or yang.
Yeah.
I don't see them just being a good team and being like a 4 or 5 seed. I think they're either going to be really good and great the way they were before all the stuff happened with Ja, or I could see them being again like last year where they're kind of last year was injuries, but where they're treading water and all it takes is an injury here, injury there, and next thing you know, they're right back where they were last season.
Yeah, Ja wants to play with pace, and then how does that line up with Zach Edey being on the court? And Zach Edey, by the way, might be the rookie of the year. Some of the stuff he was doing in preseason, he's ready to contribute. Looks like he's going to start at center alongside Jaren Jackson if he's ever healthy. I like Bane. Marcus Smart, listen, you got Marcus Smart and Desmond Bane D'ing you up on the perimeter. That's pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
I think they won 57 games 2 years ago, something like
Yeah,
that. That's when the Lakers knocked them off. That health has just always been an issue for those guys. So it's tough for me to get too worked up about the Grizzlies, but clearly the potential, as you said, was there. We should drill down real quick on the Golden State Warriors, Rob. Listen, you guys know Steph Curry is my favorite player in sports. I look at this starting lineup. Andrew Wiggins swears that he's back in the right headspace. It sounds like they're going to basically shoot as many threes as they can a game. Kevon Looney has fallen down the depth chart. TJD looks like he's the backup. They're going to go with the death lineup. They're going to try to make Jonathan Kuminga happen. And at this point, I'm contractually obligated to reference Mean Girls and make fetch happen. I like Kuminga, but I've never seen him totally fit this team. It's just, he's a really good athlete and has a lot of potential. I just don't know where he fits I would like to see him in the Draymond Green role, but he's not as high IQ of a passer, really good defender, shot blocker, long, but you can't really have two Draymond Greens out there. And, I know they got Buddy Hield and the DeAnthony Melton and Gary Payton. You do some things with slow-mo, and Moses Moody just got a new deal. It's just a lot of, I don't know. And I wonder how much Curry has left in the tank because he really emptied it last year. And then he was phenomenal in the Olympics. Part of me wants to be, Rob, we're in this business where, you make a prediction, then you want to be right. And part of me wants the Warriors to be like a 33-win team. And then Steph Curry says, guys, I can't. Please trade me. I want to contend in my final years. Like that does seem like it's on the table. Does it not?
I mean, I'd like to think that he's one of those guys where it means more to him to finish his career in Golden State. But to your point, I could absolutely see him forcing a trade because we saw over the summer, he's absolutely capable of being the best player on a championship level team, no matter who's on his team. Like LeBron's out there, KD's out there, and in the gold medal game, Steph Curry was the best player. So he definitely has that ceiling that not a lot of guys have. Their problem is, well, it's twofold. One of them, you're really banking on Draymond Green to stay out of trouble. And I just don't know if historically you can rely on that because, to your point, Jonathan Kuminga, I don't believe at this stage of his career is mentally and emotionally ready to play high-level basketball. He's a great athlete. He got a lot of talent. What he needs is repetition. He needs an opportunity to make mistakes and play through it. The problem with Golden State is as long as you have Steph Curry in your roster, you're not in that zone. We're going for a championship. So if Steph Curry and Draymond Green are on one track and Podziemski and Kuminga are on another track, like, how do you satisfy both of them?
Yeah.
And then you're banking on Andrew Wiggins to, rekindle his, form from 2022 or whatever year it was when he was arguably the finals MVP or
when they won
Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Like he was the second best player. And he hasn't been that guy since then at all. So you have good pieces. You have I like the pivot when you go from Klay Thompson to Buddy Hield and slow-mo. I think that's a solid move from where they were. But you need a lot of things to break right for that team to really make any kind of noise. Yeah. And I just don't see it happening.
And listen, I'm not saying Curry should demand to be traded. I'm just saying if they're not winning and there's not a path to victory, I just don't understand why we should be forced to not watch. We should be forced to watch Curry end his career with a terrible team going nowhere. We want to see the best players play, especially in the postseason. And I don't see Curry going to Charlotte or whatever, but I would hope that somebody says, dude, let's go get Steph Curry. Let's make a grandfather offer. You're seeing crazy stuff. I know it's not the NFL, but we're seeing reports that Cooper Kupp, the Rams are looking to offload Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is, he's been there longer than Stafford. Aaron Donald retired. Cooper Kupp is basically one of the most popular Rams. He's been there, Super Bowl. He was awesome in the Super Bowl. And now the Rams are like, we got to move off him. He's old. He's always hurt. And it's like, if NFL teams are smart and willing to do that, why wouldn't NBA teams? I'm not saying you kick Curry to the curb or ship him to Siberia, but you give him the option. Like, dude, we didn't make the playoffs. What am I doing here? You guys tried hard to get LeBron. You went after Paul George. You just couldn't deliver. It's time for me to leave, and I got no problem with that. So
I gotta
Rob,
say that was funny what
ahead.
Draymond said earlier on. Was it Monday? I think it was on his own podcast where he said, we had visions this offseason of getting both Paul George and Lauri Markkanen. And, but the Clippers and the Jazz wouldn't play ball. Well, no shit, dude. Like, no offense to Draymond, but that sounds like something like the hashtag future Laker conglomerate would say. Like, yeah, we were going to get LeBron and KD, and we were also going to find a way to get Steph Curry all on the same team. But the Warriors and the Suns wouldn't play ball. Well, yeah, of course they didn't.
Yeah,
so,
shocker.
Just shout out to Draymond.
So let's wrap up with our NBA Finals picks. I'll let you go first, Rob. I went first on the conferences.
Well, I am in the Western Conference, one of those people who was really sipping on the OKC Kool-Aid.
Uh-oh.
I love them, and their biggest problem is the lack of size. Hopefully, when Hartenstein comes back in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, rather, that he's able to kind of fill that void from them. But at their best, I believe they're a 5-out team with Chet Holmgren at the center and sliding in Caruso into the starting lineup with J-Dub and SGA, and maybe Jalen Williams might play for them as well. But I think as long as they can avoid Denver in the playoffs, because I think Jokic would just dominate them inside.
That's fair.
I like them against everybody else. So
you got OKC. Wow.
I like OKC in the Western Conference. And in the Eastern Conference, the easy pick is Boston. The problem, though, I feel, is historically, it's really hard to repeat in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
And as good as they are, their best is better than everybody else's best by a decent margin. Jason Tatum, suddenly his jump shot doesn't work over the last 10 months. We'll see if Jaylen Brown is in the right headspace to play within their system, and he's not taking his frustrations out over the summer on the rest of the league and by default kind of screwing up their mojo a little bit. Porzingis is always an injury risk. Al Horford is, older than me, which is saying a lot. So I like the New York Knicks to upset the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, 6 or 7 game series, and Tom Thibodeau to get the NBA championship with the Knicks beating OKC in the finals.
Oh my goodness. Knicks OKC. I don't know how that would go over. Obviously,
ratings would be terrible.
Well, I think New York, people would like to see them be good again. When was the last time they won a title? 1970 something, 72, 73. I don't remember. I'm with you on the Knicks. I think the Knicks take down the Celtics in a 6-game series and the Knicks advance to the finals. The West is a little muddier. I guess I'm going to be on an island. I don't have OKC in the Western Conference Finals. They're very good. Their roster 1 to 10 is phenomenal. It leaves a little something to be desired to me. I think I referenced that account where they have on Instagram where they have like NBA players and they'll do AI what they really said, and it was like, it's fake.
Yeah.
And they had Luka Doncic calling SGA a free throw merchant, which I think is great. That's what he does. I thought that was a hilarious nickname. But so I have OKC bowing out earlier. I'm gonna go kind of off the board here. I've got the Minnesota Timberwolves taking down Dallas in the conference finals, and I've got a Knicks versus the Timberwolves NBA Finals with Karl Anthony Towns versus Julius Randle.
Yes.
Anthony Edwards becomes the star we thought he would be. And I don't have any clue how the Knicks would defend him. Probably, OG, Hart, Bridges, they'll all get a crack. I just love how the Knicks are built. So I'm going to go with the New York Knicks being crowned the NBA champions. A little hyperbolic, but maybe this is the Knicks year, right? The Yankees are back in the World Series for the first time in like 15 years. The Jets were supposed to be Super Bowl bound. That train has been temporarily derailed, shall we say. But I got the Knicks going to the NBA Finals and winning the title. Rob, I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with these predictions.
They almost probably, they definitely will not. But I got to tell you, we are not as crazy as it sounds, America. DraftKings right now, the Knicks are the third highest odds or third best odds to win the championship at plus 800. So it's not like we're just throwing shit at the wall and saying, hey, hopefully this happens because you're a Knicks fan and I just happen to love the Nova Knicks idea. Like they have legitimately, arguably the best starting five in basketball. Like them and Boston, I think, are right there. It's just they're different versions of themselves, but they're both really good. And as long as, again, this is the big buzzword of the NBA season, if they can be healthy, I think they would have beat Boston last year if they weren't so banged up.
They fell apart against
They fell apart. I just like their mental toughness. I think Thibodeau is a great coach. Jalen Brunson is a superstar. If they get there and they have reasonable health, not even 100%, they're 75, 80% of their top self, I think they definitely win the championship.
So the Celtics are plus 310 favorites, OKC plus 650, then the Knicks at 800, Nuggets 950, Timberwolves plus 1,000. Wow, that is, I can't believe the Warriors are plus 3,500. We don't have them in the playoffs, yet they're odds. So somebody's going to be wrong, the market or us. Anyways, that's our NBA preview, guys. Strap in, enjoy the games tonight. Talk to you tomorrow.